So it says it's already broadcasting. And hey there, welcome to Not a Podcast. We're live with our first ever learning show with Learning Life. Look at this, I already messed up. All right, we're live with, I know. We're live with our first time ever with LinkedIn Learning instructors, Sharon Bennett, Morten Ran Hendrickson, Walt Richer, and me. I'm Ray Villalobos. And this happens to be episode 0 of the show. And hold on, now it even says that you can that I'm live on LinkedIn. So that is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and I will paste the link somewhere, but there it is. So you should be able to see us also on LinkedIn Live. We're also on YouTube, just in case. This is episode 0 on April 8th, 2020. And today, since it's episode 0, we are trying to figure things out, so I hope everyone here is a forgiving bunch and gives us a shot. And we really just want to talk today about why this thing isn't a podcast, why we called it not a podcast. So here is from his server farm, Walt Richer, where he's processing, who knows, probably billions of dollars worth of GitHub from his recording studio, Morten the Northman. Also, Sharon Bennett from a very empty conference room. Shouldn't you be home right now with all the coronavirus thing?
Oh, it's a pandemic, you know. It's just a green screen.
Green screen for the win.
So I think we're all at home, except that Morten and not Morten. Morten is like in a studio. How are you doing, Morten?
I am doing quite well. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what Walt Richard's Twitter handle is.
Yeah, listen, I have to say that
I'm in my recording booth at home, like everyone is.
I'm hoping that you guys are all super forgiving because this is clearly the first time we have done this. None of us know what the heck we're doing. We wanted to do LinkedIn Live, and although it looks pretty cool, it looks like we already have 5 people on the stream. We honestly know what we're doing. You can see like my screen, my Apple TV just went to like a screensaver. So this is going to be fantastic. So Morten, do you remember the conversation that we had when we were talking about putting this thing together? We had a conversation about what we were going to do because we had a podcast before. So why is this thing called not a podcast?
Well, you're asking me this question. The idea is that we want to do it live with people asking questions. And, well, you can send questions to us in advance too, but we want to make this a live show. And we want to make it into something that is more interactive than podcasts generally are. Podcasts are generally something that's recorded and then packaged up and then made all fancy and then sent out and then people listen to it. But we wanted to just, make it more interactive. And because it's on the internet, we can do things like actually show things or show demos or do other things. So it's and we're trying to figure out a format. I think one of the challenges with podcasts is podcasts has become a thing that means a million different things. And there are some formats that have become quite ubiquitous and they work or they don't work, but we want to see if we can explore a new format of some kind. So.
Yeah, we're so used to sort of working in a very controlled environment. You know, we all record in fancy studios and we've all been now forced to be home. So it gives us sort of an opportunity to try something different that we're kind of not used to. We don't really have a lot of opportunities to sort of interact live with anybody that we work this stuff for. You know, I know that when I'm recording, it's a very kind of lonely job. I'm always there in the booth by myself, and I pretty much don't get a lot of feedback from people. So it's really kind of an opportunity to figure out how can we kind of interact with people. So this is pretty cool. Now, what about you, Walt? What did you think about when we kind of came up with this idea?
Well, I've been thinking about doing, I've had the in this for LinkedIn Live, you have to apply because it's not rolled out to all members yet. And so I applied late last year and got approved. And so I've been thinking about what to do. And I've always been thinking about like kind of an interview type podcast, using air quotes there. And because I have a lot of contacts in especially in the Microsoft world, and they're very interesting people. So that's the typical kind of thing you see with a podcast. But like Morton said, this is live, and I mean we're still trying to figure everything out. Just before we started this broadcasting, we were like, what? How do we know what the link is for the for this live podcast? So for me, it was like, I've already been thinking about it. And so when we got together a week or two ago and said, hey, what about doing one with all four of us? That seemed really fruitful for me, because I have four people trying to solve the problem, and everybody that's watching this can see us kind of work out the kinks.
So we're doing exactly the thing that everyone does when they go on their first live thing. We're just like, how does this work? Can you see me? Can I click this button? Which is why this is episode 0.
Yes.
And it will be deleted later.
I don't know that we should delete it.
I think we should. And then we should republish it a year from now.
There you go. Sharon, I know that one of the things that people might not know about us is that we're very distributed. I know that it looks like you're at like LinkedIn headquarters, like in one of our meeting rooms, but what do you think about this? Like that we really don't talk to each other maybe as much as people think, and we're all very far away. There's a couple of people in Canada, I'm in Florida. Walt is in Washington. I mean, I know you just got a big studio. What was that like? And what are maybe some of the things that you prep for this live stream?
Well, you're right. We are all spread out. And so doing something like this makes it feel like we're kind of together, even though we don't get together all that often. Teams is great, but this is fun. And it gives us a chance to connect with our learners. We don't get the opportunity to do that, really. As for the building the studio in my house, that was quite the undertaking. So this is the first time it's been live that anybody's really seen it. So welcome to my studio. I started this whole process when I could see coronavirus was starting to move across the world, and I went, this is going to hit, it's going to hit hard. And it gave me the opportunity to get everything in place. My contractor was available. And the other big thing was I ordered all my equipment a couple weeks ago. Right now, I know it's really hard to get equipment, and now we have the opportunity. So, and I'm looking forward to doing this. This will be great. And I'll be the one to keep everybody on track, just so,
Okay. How much time do we have left?
8 minutes. No.
Yeah, so we do have.
You have 22.
We sort of have the beginnings of a format. I mean, what we're doing is, going to be talking on a specific topic for the first 15 minutes, and then we're going to take questions and answers. We're also trying to limit this to just 30 minutes. Feel that that's a good amount of time. Again, we don't have a lot of experience, and definitely looking for feedback. I know that as Sharon mentioned, she just finished her super awesome studio, so it's looking really good. Your lighting looks great, and I'm hoping to step it up in here as well. So
that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. It's like both Sharon and I have a green screen, and everybody that's on this, all the four of us have all done many courses at our LinkedIn recording studios. So we're used to coming into the recording studio, the live action studio we call it, and everybody's already set up the green screens and the lighting and the cameras, and we're used to a certain level of quality. And then when you're working at home, we're responsible for our own lighting, and thankfully I was able to call and have some video chats with some of our lighting experts, and they obviously I got another key light coming, but it hasn't arrived yet because I can tell I need more lighting on both the screen and me. On the other hand, this is a live. The whole point of LinkedIn Live is that it's live, and a lot of times it's not in a studio type environment. So like we talk about having live streams when you're at a conference, or having live streams when you have a product announcement. So it's a learning experience again.
You look like you're in the Superman movie from the 80s, by the way.
Oh,
But-
shall I change my
But
background?
the halo around you, like the keying.
Well, this is my real server. You want to see what my real server closet looks like? Here you go.
There you go. That's great. So I understand that today we have a little bit of competition with live streaming. There's another competing podcast today that might be happening right now. It's with a gentleman that I'm just going to call Gil Bates.
What?
We're going to be competing. It's probably slowing at our internet down. So I had a couple of questions for you guys. What does Bill Gates Morton have that we don't?
I don't know.
Money.
Glasses? No, you have glasses. Both of you have glasses. Never mind. He has money, power, influence,
Yeah, but
friends in high places.
I was thinking about this, and if you think about it, Bill Gates isn't like an active developer. He's essentially like he's out of a job right now, right? He just left the board. So we have some advantages here, I think, between
So
him and us.
Also, you think that people are tuning in to listen to Bill Gates talking about development?
Well,
I think he's talking about like
maybe
world development, not software development.
we're grabbing, like, he can have anybody who's not a developer. We're definitely targeting like technology people, somebody who's looking for, they want to see people that are right now actively maybe within a job. They want to know about that. So
none of us then.
Well, if we keep on talking like this, perhaps we won't be having a job.
You want to talk to people who are currently working as software developer? None of us. We're all working as software developer educators, which is different.
Yes.
But
So I hope this obviously could use some work. I hope it does get a little bit better. Now we do have some questions. So
this is a very good segue to our first question, by the way.
Oh, awesome. Perfect.
This question comes from person on the internet. What is your process for learning new technologies? It's a good question. I mean, our job is to constantly learn new technologies all the time and figure out not only how to use it, but how to use it at an expert level so that we can impart that knowledge to other people. And the idea being that if we spend the time and learn it really well, then we can figure out what are the essential pieces to pass on so that the person who watches our courses doesn't have to go through that entire learning process to get to our level. So, Sharon, what is your process for learning new stuff?
For me, because I live in the certification space, I do CERT. And so I force myself to actually go through a certification, whatever that is. And for me, I have to have a goal and typically a prize. I'll buy myself something, put it on a shelf really high where I can't reach it. But I actually set goals and then I line up what I need to do to reach that goal. If it's a Microsoft certification, I have a list of objectives. I have a OneNote and I study every objective. If it's a certificate or diploma program, then I have that mapped out for the number of semesters or years that I'm going to be taking that. What about you, Walt?
Yeah, for me, it's a multi-pronged approach. You typically stay in one content area, which is developer tools and languages in the Microsoft space. So I know that space pretty well. It's a huge space. So I know I try to figure out what's going to be interesting to learners. And then sometimes it's a lot of internet research for me. I don't do certifications like you, Sharon. I do like the idea of having a prize to look forward to. But yes, for me, it's like a lot of internet research. Occasionally, I will buy a book or two to review. And I think Morton alluded to this when he was saying a lot of it is planning. Is what do you want? What's the important bits? There's a lot of information out there. Our job is to distill it down to the important bits, and that's not necessarily obvious at first look. What about you, Ray?
Yeah, for me, it's like really important to always try to build something with whatever I'm trying to learn. So as soon as I can, as soon as I know I'm going to be doing a course on something, I try to find a project and then build something with the tool that I'm doing, just so that I get some practical skills. Actually, literally just building something. A lot of times we have kind of our plan of what we're going to teach as far forward as a year in advance. So a lot of times I'll try to look for things where I can combine skills. So if I know that I'm going to be doing something with animation, I'll make sure that I create a certain project and that it has those things that I will be, needing to teach about much later. Also, I do maintain a couple of, repos, like open source repositories, which is a really important way to also gain practical knowledge. Just building something, I think, teaches you things that you don't know that you need it when you just are looking for maybe conceptual type sort of topics on the internet. And it makes me run into things that I'll need to solve in a realistic way. And if you watch a lot of my stuff, I think it's all based on, realistic projects. So I always try to sort of put myself out on, a project where I'm going to need to be pushing what I know already. Cool. So any other good questions there?
Yeah. Let's see. We have, what is the best learning path for becoming a full stack web developer? This is the classic question that everyone asks all the time. And I think it's one that, as the terminology around full stack and front end and back end becomes more and more diffuse, and people see what's going on in the whole JavaScript is eating the world space, there's more and more people who realize the web probably is where it's at going forward. So I need to learn it. And how do I go about doing that? Where do I start? Do I start with React? Do I start with coding best practices? What? Ray,
Yeah,
I think you have some opinions.
Yeah, I think like for me, I mean, that's a really tough question. I think I always tell people, try to start where you are at and then build from there. Don't necessarily try to find something that is completely different. I think it's easier to sort of build upon the knowledge that you already have. I know that, before I got this job and when I was working in industry, I always tried to make sure that whenever I had a project that I had to build, that I always had built into the project, something new and different that I needed to learn for that project. So, and I've built all kinds of stuff. So, if I had to build like a streaming solution for a radio website, that was kind of my push sort of goal. But I never really tried to completely go into a new direction. So I always try to do it with the tools that I was with. Sometimes it's, I don't know, Walt, what do you think? Sometimes it's better to go sort of, just do that where you push somebody so they learn how to swim. Like you push yourself into like a completely new situation. I find that on a consistent basis for me, it's easier to push myself a little bit all the time as opposed to try to push myself into something completely new. What do you think, Walt?
Are you saying that you like to have a long-term push as opposed to short-term goals? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I try to move usually from where I'm at and try to see what else is related to what I'm already doing that I can learn a little bit from. So my path is always like cumulative and gradual. So I try to go, okay, if I know PHP, then I really need to learn SQL. Those things work really well together. I don't try to go necessarily, let's go like Node.js, React, and NoSQL or something. I try to sort of build upon the knowledge. I mean, I think both approaches have value, but how do you treat that?
This assumes that you already know what you need to know.
Right.
I mean, the guy who's asking or the person who's asking says, I'm a video editor or something like that and wants to pivot over to web development. I think one of the big challenges is when we started, way back in the day. Look, I'm touching my face constantly. I can't help it. When we started way back in the day, what you needed to work on the web was actually just HTML. Because I started so long ago that CSS wasn't really functional in any meaningful way. So we learned HTML, and you did layouts in HTML. And then CSS came along, and then you learned CSS in addition. And then slowly the platform evolved. And now, when you can't really just be a web developer anymore, or a front-end developer anymore, you need to figure out what is the starting point. Because what you're seeing is the jobs available out there are React jobs or JavaScript jobs or full stack developer jobs. And then the question is, what is the full stack, and how do you actually build that pyramid to the point where you know what you need to know, and where do you start? So my answer before anyone else is, it doesn't, the core of the web is still the core languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and not the React version of JavaScript, not JSX or anything else crazy. It's actually just the JavaScript that runs in the browser. And the more you know about what the browser renders, so the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript that gets to the browser, the better you will understand all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So rather than starting with a complex JavaScript framework or something like that, you should actually be starting the same place I started, which is HTML semantics. Then add CSS on top of it to understand how to style it. Then add JavaScript on top of it to add interactivity. And then say, okay, can I use other tools to generate the code, which is where tools come in. And then you then step behind the scenes and you say, okay, where does it hide? And that's when you end up on the back end. And that will over time build you up to a full stack developer.
Yeah, that's true. I think that I know I get the question a lot of what should I choose? Should I learn like React, or should I do Angular or Vue? And I think to me, that question comes down to, I always tell people React probably has more market share, so you're going to find more jobs out there for React. I personally like Vue the best out of the frameworks, but they're so similar that I think you need to sort of try them out, try to do a project with some of them, figure out which one you like or which ones you like, and then continue to get, I think, a little bit deeper in one. Don't try to maybe learn all of them, but try to get deeper into how one works once you figure out that you prefer one of them, and then continue building up upon your knowledge. But yeah, definitely HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then build up from there.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is, what do best-in-class tech companies do differently in their engineering talent?
All right, so I'll take some of this. I'm not sure about what do they do differently. I can tell you that one of the things that really surprised me about working, with the company that I'm with right now is how much research we do and how we really look at how what we're doing affects different things, our core metrics. This is something that I did even when I had my own websites. I always try to launch things and then look at analytics to make sure that we were letting the analytics drive the engineering. And so that is, I think, something that as I started to work in a big company, that is something that we do very seriously here, and that was kind of surprising. So I think that's one thing that will set a big company apart. What do you think, Sharon?
Oh, the best thing for a company to do to have best in class is invest in your employees. End of story. Provide training, provide learning, provide the resources to do so. Hands down.
And that was a better answer than mine.
When I noticed a lot when I was doing consulting that the companies that had stellar engineering staff or programming staff, not only did they hire well, but they had a system in place for mentoring new employees. When somebody comes in, there's somebody that helps that person navigate through learning the stack that the company's programming in, and also having the time to mentor them in programming areas. Like, let's take some time to learn, like Morten was talking about full stack development. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean inside our company? Right? In our company, we're using whatever technology is React, but you also need to learn these 3 other things. So let's spend some time over the next month. We'll spend an hour every Tuesday, and we'll get you up to speed on some of the other things that are part of this technology. So really, Sharon's answer is right. You spend a time training your employees, but how do you do that? Not just, it has to be more than just read this book. You have to have some investment from the rest of the team, I think.
That's a good point. I think that one of the things that I try to do is make sure that, when I was a manager, I gave my employees like time to learn. Like you want to make sure that you give people active time to learn and help them with goal setting, because I think it's really easy to get sort of, down on the project that you're working with without giving people development time. So just the ability of checking in with employees and telling them, hey, what did you learn this week? And in your check-ins with them, just encourage them to understand that you're taking those kind of things seriously. And that has to come from the top down.
Yeah, and I think part of the answer to this question sits in the question that they are asking, what do best-in-class tech companies do differently? Mm-hmm. One of the things that stands out to me, I've seen it at LinkedIn, I've seen it in a couple of other big tech companies, is not only do they invest in their staff and encourage their staff to move beyond their current position. Like at LinkedIn, we call it next play, and everyone is encouraged to constantly try to figure out, where can I move next? Where am I going to go next? What skills do I need to build? But also invest in your staff enough that even when they get trained to do something that falls outside of their current job specification, they don't want to leave the company, right? You want to make an environment where you train your staff to get better and better and better, and to move into positions where they're using their skills to the best of their ability, but at the same time feel like this is a place where I can securely move around and advance in my position. And even if I choose to leave at some point, I leave with the company's blessing, so that the company isn't like trying to lock people into a job and then prevent them from ever moving anywhere else, which is something that does happen from place to place. Now we have 4 minutes left, and there's one very important question we have left to answer.
I know what this is.
What is the best 2 combination topping on pizza? Walt, you can go first since you know what it is.
Well, I would argue it's hard to have any bad toppings on a pizza. But 2 toppings, I would just say one has to be any sort of smoked pork product, bacon, ham, pulled pork, whatever. The other one, I don't know. What do you think, Sharon?
Oh, I'll take anything on a pizza. And I'll be that strange person and go, yeah, I like a Hawaiian. Give me the pineapple.
Really? Oh, I can't do the pineapple.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah. So you guys are all pineapple people. You have to sort of introduce me to that, because I just can't. It just doesn't compute to try to put something sweet on a pizza. Definitely, I'm a big fan of the bacon. Somebody said like basil. And you know what I do like that's kind of strange? Like, I love extra sauce on pizza, because I don't know if they just like don't put enough of it, but like a good sauce just elevates the pizza. And if you just add like a little bit more of it, to me, makes it delicious.
So your 2 toppings are sauce and sauce?
Sauce and bacon, because anything's good with bacon.
Because pizzas already come with sauce. He's just saying more sauce.
Yeah, like extra. You have to ask for extra sauce. Extra sauce is the secret to great pizza, if the sauce is good. And
they can't charge you for that, right? It's not an ingredient.
Yeah, they probably could. Yeah. Good cheese.
I think the best pizza I ever had was pizza with reindeer medallions and Jarlsberg cheese.
Yeah. You're a strange man.
That is you don't knock until you try it. Of course, you have to go to like Scandinavia to try it.
I was gonna say, is this like a Norwegian sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, you can probably get it in Sweden too, but that's about it.
All right, so that's all the time we have. Thankfully or not, we'll be back next week with actual episode 1. which I feel will be light years better than this one because we'll have like an infinite amount of additional experience. But though that might mean that it's all going to go downhill from here. Who knows? So we definitely would like your feedback on topics you'd like to see. So drop us a comment in any one of our feeds. Thank you very much, and see you guys next week. And don't forget that this is not a podcast. So take care.
Bye.
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 Awesome. So I end